Turning where we left off, we were speaking on we're moving on to interconnectedness of the brain. So moving on from the origin of music, we now move on to interconnectedness, in which I will be speaking about how the music and the brain interact in this very nuanced way. The Speaking on the origin of music and the nature of that subject, the brain processes music in a variety of different parts of the brain. Uh, Dr. Oliver Sacks saw this as I'll also have this on note card, this actual quote, but he references music as being a cheesecake, an auditory cheesecake, due to the fact that cheesecake in itself is not a naturally occurring food, yet we find it very pleasurable as we do many pastries of sorts we have to create on our own, but are incredibly enjoyable that we would not have found otherwise. And music does this in a very similar way. Music interacts with our brain in such a way that we don't really comprehend how it works in one part of our brain, but we understand it emotionally and psychologically, and we try to analyze it if you are a musician. Speaking of musicians, we move on to this idea that musicians experience this idea of earworms in a very different way. Musicians process earworms in a very analytical sense due to the fact that musicians are seeking to, their knowledge of music goes much deeper than the average person's due to the fact that they understand notes and chord progressions and so on and so forth. And therefore, when they are approached with this idea of an earworm, they attempt to decipher the song more in depth. So the earworms are processed in a specific part of the brain called the phonological loop that is usually utilized for taking speech and receiving it and processing whether or not it is crucial to be recorded in long-term memory. When it interprets music, it has to interact with many different parts of the brain in order to process whether or not it is incredibly crucial to the long-term memory. During this process, though, it seeks to analyze it again and again in order to find that perfect analysis of it in order to finally store it correctly. Unfortunately, because music can be so complex and have such varying patterns, and our brain anticipates a certain way that it should occur, when we don't get all of it, or we only get portions, it will play it over and over and over again in order to try to find something else. It will ask the brain to search for that missing piece that it can't seem to grasp. So, musicians are faced with this new idea of dealing with earworms in a very different way due to the fact that earworms occur in the brain due to their unpredictability from a variety of ways. But when it comes to musicians, they always are seeking a sense of predictability and therefore are much more likely to get an earworm. Also, very similar to this idea is that music and plays into this idea of earworms because music acts very similarly to the way we acquire language. If we acquire music from a young age, we can become more fluent in it much quicker. So, by becoming fluent in the language of music, when we begin to interpret it within ourselves, we become to look at it differently. Similar to the way we do language, is that as we acquire a sense of language, we then have to deal with the concept of overanalyzing these words and that we're experiencing, and these progressions of words, phrases, in an attempt to understand their connotation and denotation. So, moving on from interconnectedness, we're then going to discuss earworm origins and their causes. So, earworm, the word, actually comes from this German word Ohrwurm, which is German and represents this idea of it's an earthworm, but it is kind of this idea of something being stuck, being lodged in your brain, and therefore it seemed applicable to apply to music. It's actually shaking your head. So, the causes of earworms are very numerous, and they range in a variety of different senses. So, you are this idea that an earworm may be caused by, hypothetically, a very stressful situation. Stress is a very common earworm cause. In a very stressful situation, your brain craves some sort of release, and it seeks out um, an alternative to what it is currently experiencing. And very often it will grasp music, because music is a very safe and go-to choice in terms of mental stability for a lot of people. And that can then get a song stuck in their head, because we also, as humans, struggle, unless we know all of the words to a song, struggle to remember the song in its completion due to its length and repetition. And therefore we only remember the very repetitive parts. We don't pick up the verses, pick up the choruses. And so when we pick up these choruses, we sing the chorus over and over, a very catchy part, over and over, and therefore it gets stuck in our head. Another instance is earworms can be tied to environmental aspects of your surroundings. So say, hypothetically, you see an item that reminds you of a certain song that you're very fond of as a young child. Then just seeing that item could trigger you to start singing that song due to your brain's attempts to make connections, as is always seeking to make more and more connections. Another thing, another cause may be so often people wake up in the morning with earworms. And this can happen because with what we know about dreams is that you are, when you're asleep, you have to compile information that you had acquired in the previous day or previous days, and organize it in such a way that your brain can store it correctly, and place it within your long-term memory. That's why sleep is so crucial for long-term memory, because a lot of that storage and organization occurs during sleep. The issue is, though, that when you happen to have a song that you listen to that day that particularly snagged your interest, you may sing it in your sleep, and therefore it may end up reappearing when you wake up in the morning, because you were singing that song to yourself in your sleep, in your dream, hypothetically. But moving on from that, the next step on our list will be the ways to get rid of earworms. So the earworms are usually another, going back to causes, a sense of idleness can bring about earworms very easily. So to combat that, you do something that is a minimum amount of tediousness, but that also allows for your brain to be engaged. So usually some kind of mind puzzle that is not overly challenging can be perfect, because, for example, when you're doing calculus homework, you may get stressed out, and therefore you will not get rid of that earworm, because that in itself is a cause of an earworm. And people often find themselves singing songs to themselves during homework and doing very stressful things during tasks. So that stress relation. So the brain then seeks out to process these puzzles that you're taking, and therefore it can very easily get distracted from the earworm that is seen. Doing a Sudoku puzzle, for example, can very easily get rid of that. Other things that aren't necessarily puzzles but engage the mind can also be very beneficial for this. So, for example, chewing gum can actually be a way to alleviate an earworm, because you're engaging your brain just enough in the conscious effort of chewing gum that you lose track of the song, and you more get into that rhythm of your gum chewing, and you can forget about that. Another way, though slightly different, is this idea of itching the scratch, or scratching the edge, I suppose, or itching the edge. But regardless, it is in nature this idea of listening to the song all the way through to complete that loop, and really give your brain what it's craving, which is that completion. Very often, our brains lack that, and they seek it so intensely that we get those earworms that we just need to go listen to that song so we can finally hear it all the way through and sing a different part to ourselves. So that is very important and crucial to our understanding of earworms and how we can better combat them in the future if we choose to combat them. Many people actually find them either not that bad or pleasant in some ways, due to the fact that it is, if you are good enough at controlling your earworms, you can actually learn to enjoy them. So next, we move on to the idea of amusia. So amusia is a concept in regards to not being able to process pitch change, and amusia being this Latin for no music, pretty much. And so people who are amusic can differentiate between pitch and tone, and therefore music doesn't really sound like anything to them. It is mostly just noise, which can be very, very unpleasant if you've ever heard a recording of just noise. Nothing, no chord changes, no key changes, no really anything. And so this idea of amusia can prevent you from having an earworm, because if you can't process the music itself to a catchy enough extent in which that will get placed in your brain, there's no real point for it in the first place. So it can't ever get stuck in your head because you never processed it as music in the first place. So these amusics never really experience an earworm. They're one of the very small population that never do. And amusics also often don't realize they are amusical until someone points it out to that person. That is the most common way that an amusic discovers that they are, in fact, amusic. And so in relation to my project, amusics don't transfer that same kind of idea as readily as someone who does have an earworm. So next, after amusia, are pop culture references. So at this point in the presentation, I realize I'm going over a little bit. I've been rambling. I'm going to try to cut that down. At this point, I will play approximately a minute 30 of this video. The first part leading up to a certain aspect of the creation process, and then a part in which he is actually singing a song that is a pop culture reference. I'll also take this time to speak on Dr. Herman Tarnower and Gilda, the movie, and also speaking on E.B. White's entry in the newspaper, the supremacy of Uruguay, in which they, the country of, or maybe it's Paraguay, I believe, in which they create a weapon that pretty much inspires earworms, but very, very, very intensely, and it's weaponized. So you go into these countries, and they take this opportunity to get everyone caught up so much in the earworm that they cannot function anymore, and then Paraguay walks right in and takes over. I'll also be discussing how in a business person was looking to help people remember what floor they parked on in the parking garage. And he thought, if songs so easily get stuck in people's heads, why not have a song for every floor that is very, very catchy? Then when someone returns to the parking garage, that song was already stuck in their head, and therefore it's very easy for them to remember where they had parked previously. And there are some others as well that I will get into, most likely, but those will be note card oriented in order that so that I don't screw that up horribly. Then, in terms of my community outreach, this was something that was supposed to happen this Wednesday, so coming Wednesday, but instead it will now be happening the week after Big Boards, due to some miscommunication about my track meet and the place that we were going to be playing at. So, pretty much, I'm collecting an ensemble of jazz band members, and we will be performing 4 or 5 jazz songs at the next building in order to help revive some older people's experiences with earworms from their childhood, or some very popular songs that they may get earworm from, because earworms are not age restrictive. They can occur to anyone at any time, and I'm very sure that those older people probably have, having listened to so much music in their entire lifetime. I'm sure they constantly have tracks running through their head. So we'll be performing it next. There'll be a group of, I believe, 10 or 15 of us. We're playing for a group of probably 20 or 30 and we will be doing that, and I'll probably speak to them as well about earworms, about how many songs they got stuck in their head, or which ones they enjoyed most, and so on and so forth. And I'll be ideally getting pictures and videos this whole time. Well, I'll have someone most likely getting pictures and videos in order to complete this. But yes, I will speak on the presentation Wednesday about my goals and what I learned, and what I brought back, and what I understand, and that will pretty much conclude um, the presentation. I thank you all for coming to my presentation. I hope you learned something, because I sure did over this past year, and I hope that you enjoyed, and it is now open to questions. And then hopefully we'll answer questions. People have a lot of questions. They'll work out very well because they had so many good and positive questions. Maybe one from my mother, potentially, so that they don't lose that on points. Thank you, Mr. Smith, because I believe you're listening to this. I really hope you're not, because that would be really unfortunate. Yeah, no, have fun. It's not going to be a good time. I am almost about to fall asleep, so thank you for watching my video. I'm sorry I didn't get it done on Saturday. Here it is now. Thanks, Mr. Smith. Maybe. Probably. Yep. Thank you.